Good morning, boys and girls. This is Miss Simone. I'm going to read the third chapter of The Mouse and the Motorcycle. It is called Trapped. Even though Ralph woke up feeling sick and dizzy, his first thought was of the motorcycle. He had hoped it was not broken. He sat there at the bottom of the wastebasket until the whirly feeling in his head stopped, and he was able slowly and carefully to stand up. This sentence in particular has a lot of adverbs. Remember, adverbs describe a verb. So a verb is something you can do. An adverb describes how you can do it, perhaps even when. In this instance, it describes how. So he slowly and carefully stood up. Standing is the verb, so he is doing it carefully and slowly. You're going to hear more about adverbs later. He stretched each aching muscle and felt each of his 4 legs to make certain that it was not broken. When Ralph was sure that he was battered but intact, that means kind of like a little hurt, but still he is all together, nothing is broken, he then examined the motorcycle. He set it upright and rolled it backward and forward, making sure the wheels still worked. One handlebar was bent and some of the paint was chipped off the rear fender, but everything else seemed all right. Ralph hoped so, but there was no way to know. There was no way he could find out until he figured out how to start the engine. Now he ate too much to even try. Wearily, another adverb, Ralph dragged himself over to the wall of his metal prison and sat down beside the apple core to rest his aching body. So he dragged himself in a wearily way. Okay, so he's tired. He leaned back against the waste paper basket, closed his eyes, and thought about his Uncle Victor. Poor, nearsighted Uncle Victor. He too had landed in the metal waste paper basket, jumping there quite by mistake. Unable to climb the sides, he had been trapped until the maid came and emptied him out with the trash. No one knew for sure what had happened to Uncle Victor, but it was known that the trash in the hotel was emptied into the incinerator. So the incinerator is where they burn the trash. So let's just hope that, poor old Uncle Victor was able to escape. Ralph felt sad and remorseful. He felt sorry, thinking about his Uncle Victor getting dumped out with the trash. His mother had been right after all. His poor mother, gathering crumbs for his little brothers and sisters, while he, selfish mouse that he was, sat trapped in the metal prison from which the only escape was to be thrown away like an old gum wrapper. Ralph thought sadly of his comfortable home in the mouse hole. It was a good home, untidy but comfortable. The children who stayed in room 215 usually left a good supply of crumbs behind, and there was always water from the shirts hung to drip dry beside the wash basin. Remember we said wash basin is like a sink. Perhaps even a bathtub in this instance. It should have been enough. He should have been content, happy, satisfied, that is, to stay home without venturing out into the world, looking for speed and excitement. Outside in the hall, Ralph heard footsteps and Matt, the bellboy, saying, "These new people in 215 and 216, somehow they got the idea that there are mice in the hotel. I just opened the window and told the management wouldn't stand for it." Ralph heard a delighted laugh from the second-floor maid, a college girl who was working for the summer season. "Mice are adorable, but just the same, I hope I never find any in the rooms. I'm afraid of them." There were 2 kinds of employees at the Mountain View Inn: the regulars, none of them young, and the summer help, who were college students working during the tourist season. If you don't like mice, I'm sorry, I should do that with his voice. If you don't like mice, you better stay away from that knot hole under the window in room 215, advised Matt. The sound of voices so close made Ralph more eager than ever to escape. No, he shouted. His voice echoed in the metal chamber. I won't have it. I'm too young to be dumped out with the trash. In spite of his aches, he jumped to his feet. He ran across the wastebasket floor. He leapt against the wall, only to fall back in a sorry heap. He rose, backed off, and tried again. There he was on the floor of the wastebasket a second time. It was useless, utterly useless. He did not have the strength to tip over the wastebasket. Ralph was not a mouse to give up easily. He considered his problem a moment before he rolled the motorcycle over to the wall of the wastebasket. Then he seized the apple core by the stem and dragged it over to the motorcycle. By putting his shoulder under the stem end, he managed to raise the core until it was standing on its blossom end. But when he put his front paws around it, he tried to lift it and found he could not. The core was too heavy to lift up onto the seat of the motorcycle. Ralph was disappointed, but when he stopped to think it over, he saw that even if he could manage to get the apple core on top of the motorcycle, it still would not be high enough to allow him to climb out of the wastebasket. Bruised and defeated, Ralph dropped the core and decided that he might as well be thrown out with the trash on a full stomach as an empty one. So he's going to try to eat the apple instead. He's out of ideas. He took a bite of the apple and felt a little better. It was the best food he had eaten for several days. Juicy and full of flavor and much better than the damp Zwieback crumbs the last guests left behind. Okay, now I had to look that one up because I had not heard that one before. Zwieback, it's like a cookie or a cracker that's like dry and leaves crumbs. So Ralph thinks that the apple is better than those dry crumbs that the last guests had left. He took several more bites and settled down to a hearty meal, saving the seeds for dessert. Now I think that's funny because if I accidentally eat an apple seed, I don't necessarily think that they're dessert, but I guess he does. 2 ant scouts appeared on the rim of the wastebasket. Go away, Ralph said crossly. Another adverb, by the way. He said it in a cross way. Can you say something in a cross way? I was waiting for you to try. Go ahead. Okay. Because he did not like to eat food crawling with ants, and because it embarrassed him to be seen in such a predicament, the ants left as silently as they had come. Just saying, there's a lot of them. Silently. Now, not all adverbs end in ly. However, there's a lot of examples of adverbs with ly in this book. So they left in a silent way, okay? All right. When Ralph had eaten his fill of the apple, he curled up beside the core. He only hoped that someone might happen to drop a Kleenex over him. Oh, he must be cold. It was bad enough to be carried to one's doom in a wastebasket, but to be carried to someone's doom by a shrieking maid was unthinkable. So shrieking, think about what that means based on the picture. She's gonna do what? Shriek means what? Hopefully you said scream. I really miss having that interaction with you guys. Sorry. Side note, I miss you answering my questions in the middle of reading. Okay, I digress. There was one tiny ray of hope. If someone did happen to drop a Kleenex over him, he just might have a chance to jump and run when the maid tipped the basket up to empty it into the incinerator. Remember, that's like where they burn all the trash. The thought that the boy was sure to miss his motorcycle and start looking for it kept Ralph tossing and turning behind the apple core until, stuffed and exhausted, he finally fell asleep. So that's our third chapter. I want to do just a really quick picture walk of chapter 4. Chapter 4 is called Keith. This is what Keith looks like. It looks like he has some freckles. He reminds me of my brother when we were younger. He had some freckles too. I'm going to just jump ahead really quick just to do a picture walk. So here we have, it almost looks like a flashlight or some kind of beam of light looking at Ralph, probably inside the trash bin. Probably by Keith, if that's the title of the chapter, right? If I keep going, we have a couple more pictures at the end of chapter 4. And it looks like he may have finally been able to get the motorcycle to work. And if that's the case, then I'm just making a prediction here, guys. Adventure in the Night is chapter 5. So based on everything I've seen, Adventure in the Night, Keith, the mouse riding the motorcycle, looking like he's going pretty fast, my prediction is that he and Keith are going to be friends, and that maybe Keith is even going to help him figure out how to make that motorcycle work. But we won't know until we read that next chapter. And I will probably read a couple more chapters over the weekend and have a couple of them ready for you to explore next week. All right. So that's it for today, and I hope you have a wonderful day of learning, and I look forward to seeing some of you today in our Zoom meetings. And I hope you have, as I said, just a wonderful day of learning, and I miss you all.